Hello and welcome. This is Patrick again from the Code Lovers Academy. In this video, we will be looking at working with texts and headings. Specifically, we will be looking at what are the elements that HTML has set aside that we can use for formatting and modifying text on our web page. Now, if we can go back a little bit, in our previous video, we looked at understanding elements, attributes, and we also looked at headings that we can use on our HTML file. We also looked at the hierarchy of those headings. And then we also did one example just to highlight some of those, how we can use elements and attributes on our web pages. So now we're moving forward. And today we want to look at some of the elements that we can use to format and modify text on our web page. So quickly, I'd already created a folder on our desktop that we're going to use to work on this on this video. So I'll open here quick my VS Code, go to open folder, and then I'll go to the desktop and look for HTML text formatting. That's it. So we already have, we can get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. We can get rid of all this file. Yeah, and then we can start afresh. So in this video, I want us to start with what are those common elements that we can use to format text on our web page. When we talk about formatting and modifying, we're talking about how do we enhance our text looks, or if there are other things that we need to include on our text just to make it look a little bit different or a little bit appealing to the viewers or to the people who are consuming your content probably. So we want to look at that exactly. So just as we said, to start our HTML syntax, we just do the exclamation mark and the tab, and then we have it as it is. So quickly, we can put our title as working with texts. Headings. Okay. So in the body element is where we will be displaying some of these elements and just showing you how we can work with them. So the first element that we want to look at is the strong element. Like, for example, if we have probably a paragraph on our page, or it could be our heading or anything else that we want to bold, to make it look different on our page. Probably we need to bold it. So we can use the strong element to do that for us. For example, so I'm going to open the text editor on the side, and then I will also have so I'll quickly just start the browser, just like that. And then we can display this side by side. Okay. We can display this side by side. So we can display this side by side. Right. display this side by side. All right. So that whatever we'll be typing on this side, we'll be previewing it on this side on real time. So the first one is the strong element. So for the strong element, we can use an example. For example, we want to make something bold on our web page. How can we use the strong element to do that? So probably we have, let's say we have a paragraph on our page that says this is bold text. So when we display this, it will just give us this is a bold text, okay, just as you see. But if we want this bold to actually be bold, we said we can use the strong element, and then we can bring this bold inside the strong element. When we save this, you realize the bold has actually turned to bold because we have included this strong element. So the strong element is basically used to make some of the text on your web page bold. If you want to make something look bold on the web page, you can use the strong element. And this just emphasizes text or conveys importance of that text on the web page. That's how most of the times we bold. Maybe we can bold our heading. It's just because we want to emphasize how important that heading is on the web page. So you can actually use the strong element. The other element that we want to look at is the EM. Okay. Now the EM almost does the same. Let's go down. And we can also have a paragraph that probably says this is before I forget, the EM is used to make the text italic. You know, it also adds emphasis, but the way it displayed, it will display it in an italic kind of look. So if we just want to display that, we can first get rid of the first one, and then we say this is an italic text. Okay. So we say the EM, you just say EM, you just say EM, just say EM like that, and then we bring the word that we want to make italic in the middle here. When you enter that, you realize this is an italic text. If you look at this, you realize this text is italic. Okay. So yeah, that's it. So that helps us to make text italic. So that's another that we can use. The other that we can use is so you can ask yourself why do we have to use these elements to format our text? Like, what's the reasoning behind? One, we want to emphasize on when somebody is reading this text, we want to put emphasis on those texts that we have decided to format with some of these elements. Two, it's also important for the screen readers. Okay, they use it to also emphasize the text. If someone is for the screen readers, they're able to tell this text has been emphasized, so probably this text is important in this web page, and it also helps to actually the screen readers to tell that this is important, this has been emphasized. So very, very important to master some of these elements that you can use to add emphasis on your text in your web page. The other that we want to look at are the breaks, the line breaks. And this helps us to break text into multiple lines without creating new paragraphs. So probably we want to say we have a paragraph element, and this paragraph element we have like probably this is line 1, okay? And maybe we also have another line, okay? Maybe we also say this is line 2. So when we display this, you realize they're all in the same line, but probably maybe we want to break this text, okay? The first line should be up, the next line should come down, okay? So what we do, we can use the BR element. So the BR element does not have a closing tag. It only has one tag, which is the opening tag. So when you use the BR element, the BR tag, you just have it there. So now when we do it, you realize that this is the line, this is line 1 is on top, and this is line 2 is below that. So basically that is that. If you use many of them, you realize it will add more spaces. Let's say we use quite a number of them. You realize on our web page, it's giving a lot of space because we've kept adding so many of them. But this is not good practice. Avoid using many of them for just creating space, because there are other ways that you can format your text. There are other ways that you can create spaces that we will look at as we continue learning. But for now, just know that you can use the BR just to give you extra space, just to be able to format your text well on the web page. So that is that. So we also want to look at another one, which is used for creating horizontal rules. It's called the HR tag. So this helps us to separate sections. It breaks sections. For example, let's say we had this line 1 probably as our let's say we had this line 1 as our first paragraph, okay? And then we have this line 2 as our second paragraph. Okay, so we have this is line 1 and this is line 2. So maybe these are sections, these are different sections, and we want to separate them. We want to put a line between them to clearly show that these are separate sections. So we can use the HR tag, and you can clearly see that it has given us a line, okay? It has given us a line between the two paragraphs. So that's another one that we can use to format our text. The other that we want to look at is we also want to look at another section of these elements that you will probably need to use at a certain point, and these are semantic and structural formatting. They help you semantic and structural formatting, and some of them we'll look at them. There are probably like 4 to 5 of them, and one of them is the block quote. So the block quotes, these are used for long quotes, and it's usually displayed as indented text. Like if you have a long quote and you want to indent it, you want it to look different on your page. You want it to pop up. So we would use something like called block quote. Okay, so a block quote, you realize when we put our text in the middle of this block quote, you'll see how that text will be displayed. For example, we want to give any kind of quote. So maybe not good at quotes, but maybe if we use the quote like the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Let me just write that. A journey of 1,000 Miles starts with one step. That's real quick. So that's our quote. So you realize I have started with I've started with I have put this block quote. I have put this block quote. We've been able to display this block quote in a quote format, just as you see it here. Okay. So this helps us to display quotes, and these are probably long quotes that you need to display on your web page. The other that you can look at inline short quotes. Let's say in a paragraph, maybe in one of our paragraphs, let me look at inline quote. The inline quote, you just use Q, letter Q, and maybe for that, let's say we have our paragraph, which we can have a paragraph just said, he said, hello world, just something simple. He said, hello world. Okay. And that's our paragraph. He said, hello world. But we want to make in this paragraph, we want to make hello world a quote. We want it to look different. So we could come here and put our Q and then bring this hello world in the middle here. When you do that, you realize he's saying, he said hello world. But remember, this is giving us quotation marks automatically. As you can see, we are seeing two different quotation marks. So maybe we need to remove our quotation marks that we put manually because it automatically gives us the quotation marks. As you can see, remember here we said, he said hello world. We didn't use any quotation marks, but it's emphasizing by giving us quotation marks on that particular hello world that we enclosed with a quote. So these are also very useful. We will look at situations where you probably need to use that. The other that we want to look at is the cite tag. Now, the cite one indicates a reference or a citation. It can be a book title or an author or something like that. So let's have an example to look at how the cite element works. So cite, so yeah, that's the cite one. So we have an example like the only one that I can look at, I can remember here is probably the great Gatsby. Okay. So you can see it has displayed this in this format. It's a citation. You can be maybe writing a book or something like that, and then you need to have a citation of maybe the author of the book or the author of the quote. You get it. So you can use the cite to give you that extra indentation on your web page. The other one that we want to look at is a code. Let's say you want to display a code-like text on your page, and you want it to appear like a code on your editor. So you use code, and maybe let's say this might not look familiar, but we just say console log, and then we want to include that quote and say hello world. Let's see what this gives us. We want it to give us the way it is. So you realize it gives us this quote, and it gives us the display. You can see here, the display it appears like a code snippet, and even the font. I think this font is monospace, the one used that code editors display. So you can see how it looks. It just looks like a display from a code snippet. So that's how we can use that. And sometimes in your web page, maybe you will need to use something like that. So you can also utilize that element. The other we want to look at is some of these tags and elements. We can also use them for accessibility and emphasis. So there are few that we can use for that particular purpose. And sometimes you ask yourself, if you have an abbreviation that you want to use on your web page, how do you do that? How do you display it? Okay. You have an abbreviation, maybe it can be a simple abbreviation like HTML, and you don't want to write the whole hypertext markup language, but you just want to display HTML. And when somebody just passes the cursor through that HTML, it's able to give that person HTML in full. So we could use abbreviation. So I also want to give an example of how you can utilize that. So you just use abbr for abbreviation. And then let's look at, like, we want to display HTML. When we do that, we actually see HTML on the page. But when you pass the cursor there, it doesn't show you anything. So we can use, we say that attributes, yesterday in our previous video, we say that attributes can be used to add extra information to an element. So in this case, we can utilize the title attribute. So the title attribute is where now we can input the HTML in full, so that when somebody passes the cursor through that HTML abbreviation, they are able to see what HTML exactly is. So we can type here hypertext markup language. Okay, so when we do that, you see HTML here. The HTML word here is actually there's some dots that are put under it on the HTML word, just to show us that, like, this is HTML in full that has been put in the abbreviation, just as I've done it here. So that's it. And maybe we also need to use something else, like, let's say we need to display time. We need to represent a date and time on our page. So how do we do that? So we can also look at another element, which is actually time. So another element is time. So with time, we can say maybe we want to display January, which is the time I'm making this video. January 19th, 2025. When you do that, it shows that on our page. So we can also utilize the attribute of date time, which is date time. And we can represent this as 2025, January 19th. We enter this. This will know that this is, we're representing a date and time. So our browser will know that this particular element is representing date and time. So that's another that we can use. The other that we can use is the span. Now the span, this acts as a generic container for inline text, often used with CSS for styling. Now we have not yet learned about CSS. We're going to do CSS after we finish our HTML series, but I could give you an example just to show you how a span element can be used on your page. So let's say maybe we want to make the text blue. So we'll call it blue text. So as you can see on the page, it shows blue text. So we can style this. So for now, maybe you will not know what this means, but just take it as it is. We will explain more how you utilize PSS on your HTML file to make it look appealing on the page. So we'll call it style, and then the style will see we want the color. We want the color. We want the color to, for example, be blue. Okay. So when we enter this, you realize our text is now blue. Okay, our text is blue. So you can use a span when you're styling inline text. We will have an example to look at how all this can be used in a single example, which we will look at in the next video, where we're going to work on a full example that will entail all these elements that we've learned. We want to put them together, and then we see how we can utilize them on our web page to actually make our web page look good. So for this particular video, thanks for watching till the end. I hope you've learned some of the elements that we can use to format and modify text on our web page. So let's look at, in the next video, let's look at how we can put this knowledge together with what I've learned previously to work on an example that will showcase all this in one page. And maybe that will give us even a more clear understanding of how to format and modify text on your web page. Thank you again for watching till the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be the first to always get these videos when we upload. But also like the video and recommend it to friends and family. Recommend it to some of the people that you know are starting out to learn web development. And yeah, see you in the next one. Thank you.